fun, and people love us.
Okay, hello and welcome to Captivate the Mic with Elaine Williams. This podcast is for all things visibility, confidence, to have fun, but also engage and give value, whether you're speaking in front of five people or 5,000 on a big screen TV or a little bitty phone. And I am so excited. You're in for such a treat. I have another one of my fabulous female colleagues. Let me just tell you a couple of things about her. She is an imagination advocate. Michelle Walters helps individuals and organizations with their message, their mindset, and their momentum. Michelle is a clinical hypnotherapist, a marketing coach, a speaker, an author, and a podcast host. Michelle created MakeMyHypno.com, a first of its kind custom audio hypnosis generator. So I am so excited. She was talking about it the other day, so I cannot wait to hear more about it. So everybody, welcome Michelle. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, Elaine. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yes, and the crowd goes wild. Wah, woo. So I like to have fun because we all need fun, right? So I met Michelle several years ago. Was it during COVID? We were
End
in
of
some
COVID.
end of COVID, we were in this community with other like-minded, heart-centered, fabulous female entrepreneurs. And then it turns out we're like, oh, you lived in Texas. I'm from Texas. Oh, you've done marketing. I've done marketing. Like we were like, oh my God, did we date the same guy? No, we didn't. But anyway, so it was so fun to meet another um, fabulous woman. And Michelle, is there anything else you want to say, just like as an introduction if people are like,
No, I think you covered all the bases. I think the only
okay,
other piece of the introduction was that, yes, I got to meet you online like 3 years ago, but it wasn't until, and I met you a couple of times in person, but we actually got to hang out in person together on a trip this year, and that just solidified my love for Elaine.
it was so fun. That's right. And I kept thinking, I need to hang out with this woman more, which is so much more fun than I gotta get away from this, like there's always that one person at your job or whatever. So, Michelle, I call myself half woo, a woo adjacent, like Katarina says. Like I love the woo. I have healed many, many, many things, but I'm also very practical. And I know that some of my audience probably know what hypnotherapy is. They've probably done it. They may be trained in it. And I also know there's a lot of new people who are just coming into consciousness and healing and learning all about those things. Can you just share a simple, basic explanation in case anyone is listening and they're like, what the heck is this? Because hypnotherapy,
Absolutely.
I was like, it makes me think of like, are you going underwater? Like, it makes me think of like, I don't
Yeah, yeah, that would be hydrotherapy, but I've
know,
gotten that mixed
hydro. Okay,
up. Yeah.
details. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, hydro, hypno, what's the diff? Okay, so here's the thing. Hypnotherapy, we used to kind of classify it with kind of things paranormal, like woo things like ghosts and spirits and all this kind of stuff. And I would say there is an element of unusualness or oddly connectedness that is part of hypnotherapy. But just like we didn't know, the ancient Greeks thought that meteors were rocks that the gods were throwing from the sky because they didn't have any other scientific explanation. They didn't know. We didn't know really what made hypnosis work. People have been using it for centuries. And now we have this wonderful thing called an MRI machine. And what we have seen in scientific studies is when you put people in a state of hypnosis in an MRI machine, that certain parts of the brain are dialing down. And it's kind of like you're getting out of your own way. And so when you dial these parts of your brain down, you are able to listen to parts of yourself you couldn't hear before, able to absorb affirmations in a much stronger and more powerful way. So it's a completely natural process that people have been using for hundreds of years, but we didn't really know like why did it work? Now we're beginning to get a glimpse as to why it works.
Oh my
It's
God.
it's exceptionally powerful. It helps people sort of use their own thinking to make changes that they want to make that maybe they just hadn't been able to make before. And I love helping people use it to solve all kinds of problems. Eating problems, stage fright problems, public speaking problems, anxiety problems, phobias,
Sugar.
tics, sugar. Sugar is a big one. Um, so it's become my passion.
I love it. And I'm a triple A personality and I do love to meditate. And usually I need to have done some hard physical workout prior. And, and when I'm super stressed or angry or triggered, and you're like, just go meditate. I'm like, it's not on the menu right now. I mean, I'm exaggerating to make a point, but I think also what I'm hearing is, like, I know there are times when I need to shift my energy and I don't have time to go do a 2 hour yoga class or go for a 30-minute jog. I just don't like, so I think that I want to keep playing as we work together about, just like, oh, this could be something that helps me slow down my thought
Yeah,
process and
yeah.
slow down my breathing.
Yep.
And, when emotion goes up, intelligence goes down. And I know people say, oh, just listen to your intuitive voice. But when you have so many other voices, so I feel like
You
that's
have
kind
to
of
find ways to break through that, right? And I
right.
love it. I mean, exercise is a great way to like physically get it all out, and then you're kind of ready to settle and get into that space. But you can, it's practice, and you've practiced a lot of things a lot, Elaine. It's practice to learn the techniques to wind down your brain and get it into that space. People ask me all the time, what's the difference between meditation and hypnosis? And the
Okay.
primary difference is that hypnosis has a goal. You're trying to accomplish something, whether that is a release of anxiety or improved confidence or sleep better or whatever. That's the biggest difference. I mean, it's kind of hard to characterize meditation because it's like meditation comes in umpteen forms.
Yeah. And it can mean different things for different people. And, I used to
But
teach.
typically, it doesn't have a goal, and that's a difference.
Okay. Well, I was just gonna say, when I was started speaking on college campuses about tough subjects and using humor, my friends were like, "You're teaching meditation? You?" I was like, "Shut up." So I didn't call it meditation because, this was like 15 years ago, but I would say I'm gonna teach you an exercise that's gonna help you slow down your thoughts and your breathing so that you can focus and do better when you're studying, when you're taking a test like that. Um, but yeah, and it was fascinating. Yeah, it was fascinating. So I love that. I love that hypnosis has a goal.
Yep.
So, okay, I know I want to hear all about the app and stuff, but Michelle, I want you to tell us, I want to hear some, how did you get here? How did you weren't always this glowing and evolved and, can you tell us a little bit about your background, how you ended up here? Not just for, the more mature people listening, but I feel like there are a lot of 20 somethings that need to keep hearing about how we got through our 20s. And it was, this straight up line to success is so not real. So give me some dirt, girl.
I will give you some dirt. So, I have always been passionate about understanding how people think and how people look at the world and how people communicate about it. One of my momentous life experiences was a Stephen Covey class I attended in the early 90s.
I
And we
met
were
him. I
told,
got to meet him.
oh, that'd be cool. We were told to draw a timeline of our lives and mark on it where the paradigm shifts were. And, I was in my early 20s. So I had this straight line across the page and a couple of markers on there. And then I looked next door to me, and the guy sitting next to me was an Asian American consultant, several years older than me. And his timeline was not a straight line. His timeline had these curly cues in it, these loop-de-loops. And I was like, oh my God, there are lots of ways of thinking about the timeline of your life. So if your listeners are younger, feeling confused, recognize your timeline is not a straight line. It can have lots and lots of loop-de-loops. So in short, I went to business school, because I liked that kind of thing. And then I went into marketing, and marketing really was good for me because I'm very creative and I'm very persuasive. And I was fascinated about this, like, how do you say things that are interesting to people and get them to pay attention and get them to be curious or try your product? And I also liked puzzles and like figuring things out. And so that was a really good fit with digital marketing as that field came up. And along the way, I met a woman who was kind of like a spiritual counselor to me. She was a hypnotherapist, but I never thought of our work as hypnotherapy. She was in Dallas, blessed Dallas. Anyway, I read a novel just before the pandemic called A Hypnotist Love Story. And I read this novel, and this hypnotherapist in the book had this great job, and she lived in this fabulous beach house in Sydney, Australia. And I was like, I want to do that. I mean, I'd really like to have the beach house. That hasn't come together yet, but
Yes.
there's time. There's time. Anyway, I read this novel and I decided to Google it, and I found a school to go to on the weekends in Marin, I'm in California, and trained in it. And then in the pandemic, my life kind of went blah, and I had sold a house, and this lovely life partner of mine had a stroke and gotten sick, and he passed away, and we had to move, my son and I had to move, and like all these things happened, and I was like, I am just gonna like do something completely different. It's the pandemic. It's time to just change. Just let it go and do something new. And so at that moment, I started my hypnotherapy practice. Turns out I have a really good voice for this. I'm very helpful for people. I mean, does everybody cure? No, but there are so many success stories from my history. I just love the work, and that's really how I got to be where I am now.
Wow. That's powerful. I love it. I love it. Yeah, I love like, okay, wow, here's the plan. Whoa, we're not going on that. Whoa. I mean, nobody saw the pandemic coming except for a few brilliant people, but yeah, I'm sorry for your loss and wow, it's a
It
lot.
was a loss, but it's open doors I probably would have never explored without them, you know? And I know that special people, including Scott, including my late husband Bruce, like they're with me. They're with me all the time. They're just inside of me as opposed to outside of me. And while I miss dancing with them and I miss eating with them and playing with them and doing all those fun things, I know that they're still here, and I believe that they'll be with me again someday.
I love it. That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Okay, so now I want you to, I'm just gonna, I want to know this, so I'm gonna ask it because I know other people do too. So, I have given up cocaine and Bad Boys and Doritos and Dr. Pepper mostly. Like, I feel like I have really narrowed my thing. And yet, sugar, when I am overtired, stressed out, sometimes when I travel, like it so depends on my state. And I'm saying this because I think it's going to help lots of people. It's not just about what I want to find out, but so like I guess when I'm like sleeping and meditating and working out, I really want chicken and broccoli. I really crave peaches, fresh, like I crave live, whole, plant-based stuff. And I just want water. And maybe I'll splurge and have some sparkling water. And maybe I'll have some berries. Like when I am like, but there are other times when I'm stressed, freaked out, not sleeping. Who booked this flight? Oh, I did. Whatever. And that I want sugar, and it can become obsessive for me. And God, I hate admitting that. So, and I do think it's very addictive. I do think it's horrible for us. Um, I don't know if I could ever go abstinent all the way because I feel like I would be so sad. So, am I a good candidate for one of your hypnotherapies on sugar?
Yeah,
If
you are.
so, why? Please.
You are. You are. So I do a class a few times a year called SOS Stop Overeating Sugar. And I also work with people one-on-one for sugar. What I have found with sugar is, for one thing, like it's everywhere. And until you really
Salad
sort of,
dressings.
It's
Spaghetti.
spaghetti sauce. I mean, it's in places that you just wouldn't imagine it is. And so you've got to learn to read labels, you've got to learn to cook right, you've got to learn to ask waiters questions, you've got to learn to do what you can do to be aware of where sugar is hiding because it's hiding all over the place in the American diet these days. And so part of what I preach is like be aware, learn, pay attention, ask questions because if you don't know where it is, you can't do a whole lot about it. The thing
Okay.
about the thing about the thing about you and about everyone with in terms of who I work with is that what I see is that the people who can manage to regularly go to the gym and eat pretty well and sleep pretty well and like put your life on a pretty good track, they have an easier time managing sugar. When you have a very chaotic life, it is very easy to go, oh, I've had a bad day. I don't have any energy. I gotta get up and work. I gotta do this thing. And that's kind of where it falls apart and people just start heading for the candy or the Dr. Pepper or the whatever they head for.
Yeah.
Um, the the class I teach and the work I do for people who use hypnotherapy genuinely helps people to resist it, to just say no more easily, more often. Does that make everything perfect?
No.
No. But, does it make it easier to skip the muffin in the morning? Oh, yeah. Does it make it easier to, somebody's passing around red vines in the meeting? Is it easier to just hand the box to the next person? Yeah. Um, so it's sort of learning a basic technique to help switch your mindset to a frame where you're going to take really good care of yourself and you're going to just not care so much about the sugar.
I love it. I love it that you said it's easier to say no more often
Yep. Yep. I
because
don't
that
I
really
don't
resonates with me.
Yeah, it's easier to say no more often. Do I want to say it's perfect? No. I think a lot of people, and especially people who have had journeys kind of like yours, Elaine, where you're struggling with addiction for a lot of things, sugar is kind of like the one thing that nobody really ever completely takes away from you,
Yeah.
you know?
I always say you're dancing with I'm like, it's easy to quit cocaine. You just stop dating your dealer. Uh, that's a joke, but it's a little bit true. But yeah, I mean, you're dancing with the devil called food, at least a couple of times a day. So anyway, well, thank you. Thank you for that. And as usual, I'm like, oh, I think I make it more complicated. So, but I know that that's, human nature.
Well,
So,
it's just
okay.
it's easy to fall into the pattern of sugar. It's just really easy. And, unlike cocaine or alcohol or whatever, um, like there's not, I mean, I guess there are. A friend of mine had such a problem with sugar, she went to Overeaters Anonymous. And really, why was she there? It was to help her conquer sugar. Oh, the
Well,
other
and
thing I wanted to say
sorry,
is
go
that
ahead. Go ahead.
repeating listening to recordings. Like yesterday, I talked to a client of mine who I've been working with on her sugar for a long time. And she mentioned, she said, when things get bad, then I realize it's time to go back and listen to my recording from you again. Like, just slow down, remind yourself you can do this, put yourself back into those patterns that work, and you'll be okay.
Yeah, and the more I think about it, it's like, when do I really, really want like, the milk diet, whatever. It's like when there's a perception that I'm under pressure to perform or do something, and I have doubt about my ability. And so there's something that makes me think that sugar is gonna, I know it is like a medication in a way, but it also, yeah. So anyway, I don't want to make this all about me. I just always, I'm like you, Michelle, though. I feel like when I share my process, I know that it helps other people because they tell me so. So that's part of why I'm on the planet. Okay, so now switching gears. Tell us about, you've alluded to it a little bit. I know that you teach workshops on Zoom and in person. Tell us about this app that you have created I mean, wow.
I'm so excited about my app. So I'm not sure how many other people would have a good background for building this, but my background in digital marketing, building apps for clients, And the combination of that with hypnosis and doing recording and that kind of a thing made me realize that there was really a big opportunity here. While there are tons and tons, and I've made many of them, and they're quality, off the shelf recordings that you can get for hypnosis, for nail biting or sleep or whatever else. All the ones that are pre-recorded are exactly that. They're pre-recorded. They are not made for the individual. And I realize that we are at a unique point in time where Elaine doesn't have to get a sleep recording for anybody. Elaine can get a sleep recording made for Elaine. And so my app at makemyhypno.com takes in just a few variables. There's really four questions: your name, what you want it for, where you want to imagine yourself being relaxed, and then sort of an additional information. You put in that information and it uses my directions, my techniques, and my voice. It duplicates my voice to make you, Elaine, your own personal hypnosis recording in a matter of about 5 minutes. So it's pretty magical. As I have talked to many people about it, they're like, wait, how did that happen so fast? Well, it's generated through AI, but I crafted it in a way so that it's not like you have personal information floating out there on the internet or anything. And and yet it sounds really good and people are loving their recordings. So I'm just so excited to get the word out about it because I think this is gonna, I think this technique is so much better than all the pre-recorded stuff that we currently have.
Because it feels like it's you. So let's just say I am going to try it. It just I've been so busy. So I input. I want help getting over my resistance to follow up, and
Yep.
which includes sugar. So I input whatever the things it asks me, and then your voice is what comes out of it, but with my words.
Yep. Well, it'll take your inputs and then
Okay.
it puts them kind of through a process, through a filter that says this is what Elaine wanted and this is how Michelle writes these things. And then it puts it together and sends it directly to you.
Okay.
So I would recommend that if you have different purposes that you're trying to work on, you get different scripts for each purpose. Don't try and roll them into one. So if you want a script that's anti-sugar, make one, use the healthy eating option and make one for anti-sugar. If you want one for professional success, make one for professional success and make that about being follow-up. And the reason why I recommend that is because your subconscious likes to focus on one thing at a time. And
What? No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, exactly. It'll be easier for your subconscious to understand what you're telling it to do if those are two separate recordings. Make sense?
Yes. Wow. Okay. So I know I'm gonna have all the info in the show notes, but can you just say the website one more time for people?
Yeah, the website is makemyhypno.com, MAKEMYHYPNO.com. I've been calling it an app. It's a web app. It's not something you get from the iPhone store or the Google store. It's actually a website right now. And there are 19 different things that it makes recordings for. And I have a very special coupon just for your listeners, Elaine, that you can put in the show notes so that you and your listeners can put that code in on the purchase page and take 25% off of your ticket price.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. That's so beautiful. So you're just rolling this out, and then if people are like, okay, that sounds cool, but I want some more, Michelle. You want to tell us about your book?
Yeah. So I actually have two books. I wrote one book a few years ago. It's called An Alignment of Spirit, Finding Work You Love. It is basically a law of attraction book. I wrote it about getting jobs because that's what I had to manifest over all those years of
Many
digital
times.
marketing. And then my new book this year is called The ABCs of Conscious Leadership. And it's a little ABC book to leadership. So if you are somebody who wants to, be more aware, more conscious of your own leadership, you can read this really easy because it's an ABC book. And then for each letter, I talk about, a personal story. I talk about somebody famous whose name matches the letter and that quality, and then an affirmation, and then go through the whole book. So you can read it all at once. You can read a letter a day. You can kind of do what you want to do. But it's a fun book to help remind people what are some of these values of conscious leadership. I think they're so important.
I love it. I love it. I love it. This sounds so like practical, but very helpful and really needed.
Yeah, I agree.
So, wow. And then, okay. And so, again, we'll have all the things in the notes about like your classes. And I keep thinking I wanted to give you feedback about your story. I want to ask you to share like the meanderings and the journey. And I
You were
guess I
going to
would,
give me feedback on my story. I told my little story, but I didn't hear my feedback. Do you
yes.
remember it now? Do you want to give me the
No, I do.
feedback?
No, no, no. It took, sometimes I have to noodle. Like I'll just
Okay.
share. So like I
Yeah,
just
tell
went to,
me.
I went to my client's wedding a few weeks ago, and then she was on her honeymoon. And yesterday when I saw her, I was like, I've got so many downloads, and I was just like, blah, 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 blah. And she was like, oh my gosh, like, so what's coming to me is, you have great resonance, you have great pacing, great vocal variety. I wonder if you could use pulling in a little bit of the senses at some
Mm,
point. Like the smell of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies wafted through the air. So, I don't know exactly, when you're trying to tell a lot of things in a short amount of time, but you can always go back and look and see, okay, where's that like one moment I want to like underline an exclamation or circle that was like, all right, and maybe it's COVID, maybe it's when your partner passed, maybe it's when you were like, I'm gonna burn it down and start over. So just some thoughts about that, if you
thank
could
you,
add,
Elaine. That's helpful.
like to help you paint the picture,
Yeah. No, weaving
because
those senses would be beautiful. I didn't think about that.
yes, and I tell everybody go watch Finding Nemo, the trailer. Disney does trailers really well. And because we some people listen to this, some people have already stopped it, some people got interrupted, some people dropped their phone, right? Like some people are listening, will be listening to this, and some people are not going to make it. This is just the nature of what's happening, right? But I love Finding Nemo because we are dropped into this ocean, this little clown family house, and they're so cute, and they just talk for a second, and then within like 5 or 7 seconds, Nemo is swept away. But we already care. We care about this clown family in 7 seconds. Or, yeah, I haven't, but like, make me care, right? So that's like rule number one with stories, right? And so I love that, like, so fast we meet them and then he's gone. And then we're like, oh my God, we have to go find Nemo. And then the whole, it all starts. So, I'm just wondering if we could add some elements to some of your stories about like the senses, but maybe you could add something like when I was a little girl, I wanted blah, 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 or my vision was I always wanted to do this or something. Because I think many times we had these dreams as kids and then we go do other things and then we come back to it. I found that happening over and over again
I think
with
that's probably true, although I never, as a child, would have imagined myself being a hypnotherapist in my late 50s. Um, but the the aspect of kind of who I am a listener, I am a healer, I am a helper, I am a problem solver. All of those things I think have been true from my get-go. They've just shown up in different ways over time.
I love it. And one more thought, right? Because I know whenever I have these yoga teachers that are like, okay, everybody, let's take a deep breath and put some pink bubble. Like that drives me crazy. So one of the things, and I'm not alone, I love you is it seems so practical. So I love that you have this heart and you've always wanted to help people, but in a very practical, pragmatic way. You have an MBA or whatever that you know. So to me, that's a really cool combo. And you could also play with that contrast in your storytelling. Just a
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah. No,
And
thank
maybe
you for
you already
that.
do, maybe you already do, but it's just
No, I am a little different in terms of who I am. I meet lots of hypnotherapy, not all, but there's a certain wing of the hypnotherapist group that's pretty woo-woo, pretty out there, pretty talking about things that I don't always understand.
right.
Um, and I do my work because it helps people.
Yeah,
I've been asked before, do I do past life regressions? Well, I do, but I don't really go at them that way. And then it
right.
always comes up, what do you think of past lives, Michelle? Do you believe in them? Well, I don't know what to believe. But what I do know is that when they come up for clients, if that's what's going to heal their problem, that's what we work on.
Exactly. Yeah.
I,
I'm here to
I'm
help. I'm here to
I'm here to help people get results, not to pass judgment or have ideas as to what do I think of past lives or aliens or any of that stuff.
right.
I'm here to help and I'm while I can be kind of woo, I mean I wrote a law of attraction book for God's sakes.
That's pretty
Um
blue.
that's pretty woo. But my law of attraction book is about getting a job. So, there you go. That's
Yeah.
me.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining. Thank you for being so fun. We had so much fun on that podcast mastermind cruise. And I'm so excited to come back onto your podcast. I'm so glad you got to come onto mine and shared
Yes,
your
everybody.
wisdom.
Elaine was one of like the first 5 episodes, maybe episode 2, I think actually, Elaine.
Yes.
On my podcast, Mind Power Meets Mystic. So Elaine and I go back a ways, and I just loved your humor and your caringness and your expertise with speaking. I don't know many who have your skill set, Elaine. It's fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Sometimes you forget how much you know. And, because I've been doing it and there's so many things I do intuitively. So, anyway, thank you, Michelle. This has been a delight. Make sure everybody you go find her stuff. I can't wait to test out the app. And I hope to see everybody on the screen or stage soon. Okay, bye for now. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.